to abduct a senior citizen from Nairobi, to abduct an advocate from his home, to display him for world view, and to have glee without anybody apart from the Law Society, without any word from the other institutions that hold society together, the religious body, the religious institutions, the Interreligious Council, for instance. His silence is so loud. The cultural leaders, who are the custodians of our values as a society, are equally silent, and many others. The Build Uganda. The entire country celebrated this as an achievement, as a milestone for our progress as a nation. Imperfect as it was, it is something we have held dear throughout the 31 years. Unfortunately, constitutionalism has not been equally propagated. In its place, from our standpoint, it has been subverted. The Constitution is being subverted. And there are numerous examples of this subversion. This Constitution also has been diluted. The various amendments that we have gone through talk to this. The Constitution has been emasculated. I was honored to be a member of Parliament in 1996, the 6th Parliament, which had the honor of implementing the newly established constitutional order. And the joy of being in that Parliament to exercise the full length, breadth, and depth of what we had made for ourselves made us the biggest threat to President Museveni. And in all his discussion, he has talked about the 6th Parliament. And that Parliament, the soul of it was to give Ugandans the full effect, the fullest interpretation of what constitutional order would provide to the country. Since then, many things have happened to the Constitution. I'm sure there will be an audit, there should be an audit of the first 30 years of the Constitution and the various amendments, and the best people to do it is Uganda Law Society. Constitutionalism, on the other hand, continues to face very many limitations because this Constitution does not speak Lusoga. And so the Basogas cannot understand the depth, the content of what is provided in the Constitution. And so they can't use it. I don't think the Karamajongs can. I don't think the Banyoro understand. The Bagandas is not in Luganda. The Luos likewise. And so the Constitution remains an alien document. Very alien to the lay person out there. So they can't even use it to defend themselves. And so you can now see growing lawlessness and growing lack of trust in anything called the law. Now that the Law Society is up and running and responding to the many threats that the Constitution faces and the laws that emanate out of it, today we are talking about the attack on all the safeguards, the constitutional safeguards that we provided for ourselves. Coming out of the 1986 war, Ugandans said in the loudest voice that never again would we allow torture to be the mainstay of our society. And so we provided for it in the new constitution. And yet, unfortunately, torture, the ugly face of torture, is back. Personally, I am so psychologically tortured. Whenever I see a van, I'm expecting that I'm going to be picked. At exactly 10, I was here, and there was a pickup across there. So I rolled down, and there was a pickup down there. That ignites in my heart the emotional scars that we have lived with since independence. Our grandparents and our parents lived in the hope that in my generation, torture and lawlessness would be a thing of the past. We need to examine, therefore, what have we not fixed that keeps replaying and that keeps coming back and gets normalized in our body society, in our society, that there's a replay of it with exact precision as it was. Which is this other rule book that torture maintains and mates on its population? In our generation, the military and the security agencies have become the mother of all lawlessness in our country. The justice, law, and order sector, in which the police is a main actor, has no standards to work by. The military, that should be subordinate to civilian authority, has run amok. And yet, nobody is calling these two security agencies to order. The suffering we do with kidnaps across borders within the East African community turns us, the victims, into the people that must defend ourselves without a voice from those institutions that we have put in place constitutionally to defend us from the high-handedness of the state. And so PFF turns out to be the display, the public display, the display room of everything that has gone wrong with constitutionalism. To abduct a senior citizen from Nairobi, to abduct an advocate from his home, to display him for world view, and to have glee without anybody apart from the Law Society, without any word from the other institutions that hold society together. The religious body, the religious institutions, the Interreligious Council, for instance. Its silence is so loud. The cultural leaders, who are the custodians of our values as a society, are equally silent, and many others. So from our perspective, we join you, the Uganda Law Society, to continuously shine a light on the threats to constitutionalism and the constitution in this country. You have already mentioned the commissions of inquiry that we have had in the hope that we would put an end to the cycles of cruelty and torture, and that we would mend and heal our society from all the different bouts of cruelty that we have faced. We also see a change in the character of our society, from rule of law to rule by law. Rule by law, just like it happened in apartheid South Africa. You legitimize cruelty, you legitimize rulelessness, and you provide a law for it. Namara, the MP for Buyaga, yesterday demonstrated that he can brag about what they're about to do without any ethic and in global glare. Unfortunately, that's the guy that replaced Tinka Simire, a defender, at least of human dignity. So we are not short in this country of people hired to break the rule of law and to break constitutionalism. And this is what we want to propose to the Uganda Law Society. In the face of an African Union that is such a distant voice that we can rely on at continental level to safeguard human rights, we are calling on you to fill that gap. And the East African community system, an idle entity, very idle entity, in the defense of human rights and constitutionalism. We invite you to fill in that space. With an impotent judiciary that is so well dressed, as an accomplice in human rights abuse, a shameless entity that it has become, we invite you to step up. We know that you will be the next judges, the next magistrates. It is our hope and prayer that you will be schooled in empathy and rule of law, human dignity, for the next generation to feel defended by your trade. The UN is too far from us. The Human Rights Commission has abandoned ship. They're bogus. Very bogus. They need to be called to order and be disbanded, because they are really a utility that is not serving its purpose. We also invite you to visit the prisons and investigate the lawlessness that is happening there. I worked with the Red Cross many years ago, and one of its activities was prison visits. It was also tracing missing people. We would like you to work in concert with them to understand in this changing world, in the changing circumstances, what can you do together? We would also like to invite you to investigate plea bargaining, because it's getting weaponized. When you go to Chitalia, when you go to Luzira, you will find people that have been on remand for 10 years, for 7 years, are being forced into plea bargains, incriminate themselves to buy back their freedom. This is the biggest pain that society suffers in the name of big words, big concepts, whose consequences you have not clearly spoken to the victims in custody. We are also inviting you to look at the UPDF Act, the Military Act, and advise this country and advise the political actors and educate the community. The operations of the so-called professional army. Because in our history, what is happening today had been consigned to the ragtag armies that were not professional enough. If we have not healed the military, even constitutionally, we need another look at it. And as you're at it, can you inquire from the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, what kind of products they produce for global utility? Can you also inquire from the United States Army Command and General Staff College, Fort Leavenworth, what kind of products they produce and distribute to the world? So that we are comforted that we have the right people in the right places. We want to acknowledge that your work is not in vain. Your work at the Uganda Law Society is helping to push back on the excesses and the impunity. And your global network has been very, very helpful in multiplying the voice on an otherwise thriving lawlessness in the country. As we endeavor to clean up society, we also want to commend to you new tools, new platforms, new contacts, new networks that you can use to nip in the growing torture industry. I would want to recommend to you a contact and some contacts, new contacts that you can generate. One of which is a former CIA whistleblower. A former CIA whistleblower, John Kariaku. And get inroads into building an entirely new network of human rights defenders. What you're doing is averting a catastrophe that is heavily looming on our heads. The anger is palpable in the country. The frustration is palpable. The emotional scars are growing back. And so we would like you to grow a pool of intellectual resources, legal resources, that you can put together to defend the rule of law, the Constitution, and constitutionalism. Maintain the archive of knowledge, legal knowledge, that generations will rely on to defend humanity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Could we maybe give another round of applause for Honorable?